we, the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, and worship, equality of status and of opportunity, and to promote among them all fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. I'm Benika Gera from Jan and Voyage, and today we have with us Prateek and Abhya, and we are discussing about secularism and their relevance today. I request Abhya to define what secularism means in Indian context.
Secularism in Indian context means that there has to be absolutely no discrimination against any citizen of Indian nation according to their religion. They have the right to practice any religion they want, be it a Hindu, a Muslim, and every citizen has to be respectful to that. And they also have the choice to practice absolutely no religion at all.
I request Prateek to explain the alternative definition of secularism that is prevalent in other countries.
So, as you mentioned, the secularism, what it means in the Indian context. This definition of secularism it came a little earlier, but it is especially prevalent in the Western countries. So, it is separation of the church from the state, and this is especially prevalent in, for example, France, a lot of European countries, and even US for that matter. So basically what it means is that everyone has the freedom to practice their own religion, but they have to do it privately.
Let's talk about some recent cases that have questioned the accepted definition of secularism in India and how it compares with other countries. Prateek, do you want to begin?
Sure. So one of the most recent examples that comes to my mind is the hijab controversy. To give a little context, there were a lot of protests in January and February, which led up to the Karnataka High Court banning wearing hijab in educational institutions and colleges. They said that it is not an essential practice in Islam, even though the subject is quite nuanced. At the same time, in Gujarat, the government is trying to mandate the students to read certain sections and verses of the Bhagavad Gita, and it's also paved its way to Karnataka, and they're also trying to pass this bill in Karnataka, which I find kind of hypocritical. If you're trying to keep education out of religion, why do we have morning prayers? Why are they trying to make reading Bhagavad Gita compulsory?
Well, that is a very sad reality of how secularism means in Indian context. There also are many examples in Western countries such as US, where while they say that they're very secular and they're very like how they want what Prateek said about the meaning of secularism in other countries. In US, whenever a senator or anyone is taking an oath for their official So for that, they have to take an oath, which they have to say that under the Bible. They have to put in hand on Bible and then take the said oath. And similarly, whenever there's the Pledge of Allegiance in the US, it ends with all nation under God.
One nation under God.
One nation under God.
I do agree with Abhya here that in both the cases, it's kind of hypocritical.
Exactly.
There's no one solid definition of secularism, and unfortunately, since it is not officially defined in the constitution and it is still up to debate, it can lead to a lot of extremism.
Even if their constitution actually do define secularism, especially in Indian constitution, secularism is defined that there has to be absolutely no discrimination.
They say that what the Indian constitution says.
Indian constitution.
Yeah,
yes.
The Indian constitution, it says that there has to be no discrimination on the basis of religion.
Exactly.
But they haven't defined what secularism itself means. This is still up to debate, but what, based on the preamble and based on the freedom to practice our religion, the fundamental rights, we can make assumptions about what secularism means, but there is no one hard and fast definition to secularism.
Pratik, you mentioned the hijab controversy. Do you believe that the matter actually deserves our attention, or was it blown out of proportion? Let's start with you, Abhya.
I do not think that it was blown out of proportion. In my context, I feel like this matter should be talked more. This should be talked a lot. Why do we have stopped talking about the fact that some girls, some children were some children were not allowed to enter their own schools, their own colleges because they were wearing hijab. I don't think it was blown out of proportion. I think it should be talked more and more, and we have to raise more awareness about the secularism in Indian constitution.
See, Abhya, I do agree with a lot of points you make, but I'm approaching from a different perspective. I think it was blown out of proportion in the first place. Why were they not allowed to enter college when they were wearing hijab? This received much more attention than it should have deserved in the first place, right?
But the reason it got out of hand, so you're saying that okay, it got out of proportion in the first hand. It was important for the entire nation and everyone to know, okay, this is happening in Karnataka. Why is this happening in Karnataka?
I agree that it is something that we should have talked a little more about, but I don't think this is exactly how it should have started. Two of the Muslim women who have filed a plea in the Supreme Court, they were not allowed to give their exams. They were not allowed to enter the examination halls because they were wearing hijabs. So why did it start from this? Why couldn't we just have talked about it in general? So
Exactly. Why were the laws made out of all of the sudden? Why were these laws made? And if they were made, why were some students not allowed to study because of their religion?
That is what I'm trying to say. So I understand where you're coming from, but it's just I think it was blown out of proportion, and you think that it deserves our attention. I do believe it deserves our attention now that it has blown out of hand, but in the first place it didn't.
And it was also not fair to the students who were not allowed to enter, who were not allowed to study. I think that is a very big point.
And if we do want to talk about this, let's just say that one of the students, they get traumatized by the situation. They are not they were not able to give their exams. They were not allowed to enter their colleges. This could have a very negative impact on their lives, right?
Yes.
So I don't believe that this should have happened in the first place.
Thank you for your insights, and we will end our discussion here.
Also, I request all of our viewers to be kind. This discussion, I think it is an important discussion, and even though we said some points that we don't quite agree with, we hope you are kind towards us and do not speculate about our private lives or our professional lives. Thank you.